Carlo D'Aloisio, eclectic artist, museologist and writer, has come back after too many decades in his hometown Vasto. The latter one greets him with an exhibition, which includes more than 100 works, from oil paintings and watercolors to woodcuts that unwind in a thin fil rouge through the fascinating rooms of Palazzo d'Avalos, merging the narrative of architecture with Carlo's pictorial, imaginative narration. A sequence of seascapes, valleys and mountains to retrace the methods behind his paintings works from the 1920s to the 60s. Landscapes where you're able to feel every ounce of appeal that his hometown exerted on young Carlo and, as an adult, keeps on seducing him with the magical power of memory. Memories which often shrink great visions and emphasize the details, while man and nature appear just as two elements of planet Earth which should coexist in harmony, because they're respectively guests and hosts. Maybe this approach to memory might have been the reason why Carlo D'Aloisio is so contemporary, because in our eyes, in fact, his landscapes end up being cultural as well as mental ones. They had to be explored not only to reconstruct, also through our younger siblings, our identity, our life experience and our traditions within a community, but also to set free from a thick cloud of shadows every artist from Abruzzo, that starting from those Neapolitans from Abruzzo, such as Gennaro della Monica, the Palizzi brothers, and Pantini himself, completely revolutionized the Neapolitan Academy, anticipating, under certain points of view, the artistic movement of Impressionism. This up to the Abruzzese art of the 1900s, confined by a poor and careless critique into the limbo of forgetfulness.
The artist was born in Vasto in 1892 and lived in his hometown for the first 20 years of his life, with the youthful intolerance of the one who is to be confined in narrow spaces, until he moved to Rome in 1912, where he spent all of his lifetime until his death in 1971. He will keep a lasting memory of his land, dedicating to it thoughts of amorous senses in his recollections. He married Elisabetta de Contimaio in 1927, also an artist, writer, poetess and sculptress, as well as a student of Vincenzo Gemito. Together with her, he organized an important and personal exhibition in Rome in the Salone delle Tre Venezie of Palazzo Rondanini in May 1929. The event was honored by the visit of King Vittorio Emanuele III, who bought some of his works. Carlo D'Aloisio da Vasto is considered the forerunner as well as one of the most influential personalities of the Scuola Tonale Romana of the 1930s. From 1930 to 1933, he was both the creator and the editor of the Almanacco degli Artisti, Il Vero Giotto. It was an early publication specializing in the artistic and literary debate about the themes of the Italic tradition and avant-garde, which collected the contributions of the most influential intellectuals of the time. About him, Renato Guttuso wrote, "I met Carlo D'Aloisio da Vasto in Rome in 1931. He was a man full of enthusiasm, welcoming and outgoing, and he managed to create a point of aggregation and cordiality among artists with his almanacco. I remember Carlo D'Aloisio da Vasto in the best possible way, and also with nostalgia for those years that were difficult on one hand, but rich of hope and purity of art on the other." Again, in the 1980s, Renato Guttuso wrote, "The one who wants to get an idea of the artistic and literary environment of about 50 years ago shouldn't neglect to take a look at the almanacco entitled Il Vero Giotto, originating from the passionate initiative of Carlo D'Aloisio da Vasto." In 1930, Antonio Munoz, as Governorate's General Inspector of the Antiquity and Fine Arts, and first director of the newly formed Museum of Rome, gave Carlo Aloisio da Vasto the task of creating and arranging the modern art section of the Museum of Rome and the Municipal Gallery of Modern Art, located in the building in Via dei Cerchi. His efforts as promoter and supporter of artistic initiatives put him at the center of the artistic and cultural debate of the time at both regional and national levels. In 1935, he was appointed director of the Palace of the Exhibitions and of the Municipal Gallery of Modern Art. In the following years, he had these institutions acquire some of the most meaningful works by the most promising artists of the time. Such works contribute to these institutions' great cultural heritage still to date. In particular, he favored the names of the modern Roman school, such as Socrates, Trombadori, Donghi, Scipio, Maffei, Melli, and other artists of the time. In 1950, as inspector of the Antiquity and Fine Arts of the city of Rome, he was among the advocates of the transfer of the Museum of Rome and the Municipal Gallery of Modern Art to its present-day location of Palazzo Braschi. Despite the fact he was living there, he assumed the direction of the works, aimed to its renovation and to the accommodation of museal, artistic, and documentative works. Friend of the most important artists of the Italian 20th century, Carlo Carrà defined him a current and modern artist, both sensitive and clever.
Carlo Aloisio da Vasto was an impetuous and eclectic figure in the artistic and cultural fields. As a painter, a graphic, a columnist, a museologist, he worked in various sectors with the curiosity and the incredible energy all innovators have. He was fascinated by Abruzzo's landscapes. He let himself fall into the memories of a land to which he yearned to be reconnected to, on the wave of strongly emotional images and feelings. His artistic experience made of signs, of lines that drown in a contrasting game of lights, is seen through a spyglass which widens the past and captures the details of the present. This way the signs come to light, clashing and overlapping. It's a flow deriving from the subconscious, which becomes a symbol based on minimal apparent details. This way the artist's soul emanates the disused word, slightly unreachable, like the quality of a thought that inevitably leads to his own past, to the cultural landscape, made of experiences deeply linked to the sea and the mountains, to the sounds of a mighty nature, to the fragrances and the odors of his own land, which push the viewer to the images with an emotional approach, involving the mind before the sight. Nature in Carlo Aloisio da Vasto is often cumbersome. In fact, the artist is left with a suspended existential space, while the landscape, sea, mountains, and valley, is observed from different perspectives that are filtered through memories and emotions. This is also the psychological scenery of the artist, on which the light comes down, explodes, shatters, dims, penetrates, creeps in, so creating compositional games to which the mind gives life and gives shape to inimitable images. Meanwhile, the colors, evanescent or cold, bright or softened, are touched by a swinging light that flows softly, warm, cool, dynamic, captivating, icy, flexible, and impetuous. For this reason, the mental and cultural environment of Carlo Aloisio da Vasto becomes the protagonist of his painting making, where lines, cuts, perspectives, lights, bidimensional visions, suggesting volumetric representations, get intertwined in order to recreate his personal landscape. A metaphor of time as transferred from his memory, which is the symbol of the artist's love for his land.
Painter and xylographer, caricaturist and illustrator, writer and poet, art critic and cultural mediator, poster designer and engraver, as well as the organizer of big events, he is invited to the Biennale of Venice, to the Quadriennale of Rome, and to the International Exhibition of Engraving in Los Angeles. Homaged with personal exhibitions in Lausanne, Paris and Warsaw, his artistic production rises to great notoriety, and his works achieve numerous prizes and gold medals, including the one bestowed by the President of the Republic. Nowadays, his works exhibited in the most prestigious art galleries and present in numerous remarkable private collections regain, on the wave of a new critical progress, a fair dimension both in the national and the international panorama of the artistic experiences of the 1900s.